It's getting close to the end of the year, and around this time of year, every year, I am always reminded of how four high school kids recorded an album in the back of a hardware store. For a long time, I have wanted to make videos in regards to a lot of my music, my albums particularly, and I always wanted to kind of give you guys the stories of the stuff behind the albums that I've created. But today I have decided that I wanted to talk about an album from the band I was in, Xccentrophobia. And this was our first album entitled The Chronicles of Dave. Um, so I'm going to give you guys just a quick history of Xccentrophobia, and then I'm going to tell you guys exactly my perspective of The Chronicles of Dave and just what I remember, making it, and how how fun of a time that I had doing this. So I can only imagine that people watching this video already know all about Xccentrophobia. Um, but Xccentrophobia was the band that I was in, and we were a band from 2004 to 2007. Originally, myself and my neighbor, Shane, had started writing songs together when we were I was about 15, and so he was probably like 13 or 14 when we started to actually collaborate and write songs. I had been playing guitar for 1 year, and he had the idea first to want to write songs with me. So I would write, these punk guitar, songs, and he would write lyrics to it, and that's kind of how him and I started collaborating with music. Then maybe a few months later, we actually found a drummer and decided to have a three-piece band. We changed our name to Life in Storage. Shane actually started playing bass as well, and I just kind of kept my role as a vocalist and a guitarist as planned. And we did like 2 public shows as Life in Storage. Actually, no, we changed our name to Country Club Quality. At that point, we had actually enlisted my brother Kevin to be our bassist. So now we were a 4-piece. We played, I think, 2 shows as Country Club Quality, which very small shows. And then that was kind of the end of Country Club Quality shortly after that. And it was sometime in July of 2004 when we had actually decided to switch drummers, and we enlisted Brian to be the drummer of Xccentrophobia. We took the name back, Xccentrophobia, which was the original name that Shane had come up with when him and I were just writing songs, just the two of us, in my bedroom when we were, like I said, 15 and 14 years old. So we put the name back to use once we did this lineup, and it stuck, and this is kind of where everything changed. Our first show was at the Niles McKinley Dragon Days event, which included a battle of the bands. Because your voice is shouted out, let it all fall down. Yeah, let it all fall down. I think you got control. You're not dying, and you're scared, and they all think you're crazy. But it's when you can. That was probably one of the larger amount of people that I've ever played for, and I was very nervous. And honestly, from there, we just started to play more shows, and we started to really gather a following, throughout high school, and even people who didn't go to school with us started to take interest in the band. So it was sometime, around this time, in December of 2004, that somebody who was friends with us in the band, told us that their uncle was the owner of a hardware store in the area, and he was also a member of another local band, and they record their own albums at the hardware store in this little section of the store which was called the Loft. So she said that she could probably hook us up to, to talk to him and see if he would be willing to record our first album if we were ready to record. So that's kind of how the Chronicles of Dave started to take shape. We talked to, his name is Harm Andrews, and he, I think for just a couple $100, if that, I don't even remember what the cost was, but there was like maybe a couple hundred at least. He said that he'd be willing to record us, when we were ready to do it. Now we've only been a band for 4 months, 5 months maybe, and at the time when we recorded the Chronicles of Dave, I honestly don't feel like we were at our strongest yet. We were still kind of reaching our peak as far as the song arrangements that we were writing, the way that we were playing the songs, the way that we were interacting, with crowds and performing and such. So the Chronicles of Dave, it kind of really showcased our, just when we were still, I guess, children with the songs, that we had. Nothing was 100% perfect on the Chronicles of Dave. And honestly, when I listen to it, I really don't care. I think the album actually attracted, a lot of people, a lot of interest. We sold a lot of copies of it, so I don't want to think it's a bad album. In fact, I really like the album. I like the songs that are on there, and it just always reminds me of where I came from, and where all four of us came from, to be honest with you. The Chronicles of Dave consists of 9 songs: The Syndrome, Ghosts, Ceramic, I Belong to You, Mayday, Tribute to Teresa, Double Life, Without You, and Project One. If you want to count the hidden heavy metal version of Ceramic after Project One, then I guess technically there's 10 songs. But listed on the back, there's only 9. These were pretty much all of the songs that we had ever written up to that point. There's been a few songs here and there, like Letter to the Big Fish and Sharon's Lights, and I think there was a song that Shane had called Mackenzie. Those were songs that we started to write, and I know Letter to Big Fish was completed because we actually played it once live, but the 9 songs that made it to the Chronicles of Dave were the ones that really stuck, the songs that really that people like to hear, obviously, when we played live. It was our only set, to be honest with you. But, I think that those songs are, especially, The Syndrome. When people think of Xccentrophobia, then I honestly think the first thing they think of is The Syndrome.
But that's not something you can say, because your voice ain't shouting out. Let it all fall down. Yeah. Let it all fall down. I think you got to go. You're not right again.
The very first song that we ever wrote as a band was The Syndrome. And then, throughout the span up until the time it was time to record the Chronicles of Dave, I think Mayday was honestly the last song that we had written, according to all my demo tapes that I have, which are dated. So the earliest recording is The Syndrome, and then the last recording featuring songs that are on the Chronicles of Dave was Mayday. So that just kind of shows you, kind of where all the songs kind of sat and whatnot. So on December 28th of 2004, we entered this hardware store for the first time, and we got to, go up to the Loft, which was a really cool rehearsal space for the band that, the one owner of the store was in. They had it set up really cool, I thought it was a really awesome space, and I just going into this, I was just so excited. I was so amped up, and I just couldn't believe that we were actually gonna record an album. I've waited for that for a long time. Even before I was in Xccentrophobia, I just couldn't wait to hear stuff that I helped write, you know, actually be on a good recording, and let alone on a CD at the time. I didn't have my own CD burner and stuff. I don't think there was no way to really get anything onto a CD, so that just made it even more special for me, to be honest with you. I don't remember exactly, where we started recording. I'm sure, honestly, The Syndrome was probably the first song that we laid down, during the recording session. In fact, I want to say it is because the quality of The Syndrome actually sounds different from the other remaining 8 songs on the album. The volume quality is a little lower than everything else that's on there. So The Syndrome probably was our very first recorded song for the Chronicles of Dave. It was probably also used as the test song, to get levels and stuff, and then modifications were probably made from there. We didn't finish the entire album in one day. We actually went back on December 30th of 2004 and finished up whatever remaining songs that we had, that we needed to finish for the Chronicles of Dave. So overall, it really did take 2 days to record the album. And then we waited probably, I think it was about a month or so, for Mr. Andrews to actually, kind of mix and master, the tracks. And then, when the day came to pick up the original, finished product, I just remember all 4 of us in my car driving to driving to the hardware store to pick it up. And then I'm pretty sure we just sat in the car. I don't even know if we left the hardware store, but I just remember sitting in the car for a very long time with them, and we were so amped up to actually hear the songs come through the car speakers, and just really taking it all in. And we listened to the whole album, I'm pretty sure, in the parking lot of the hardware store. If I'm being honest, I'm pretty sure we just sat there and listened to it. I actually still have the original master disc of the Chronicles of Dave. So this has every original take of the album that he gave us the day that we went to pick it up. So this was the original one, and then I'm pretty sure everybody else, we all ended up with a copy. So I still have my original. I honestly like to think that when we were making the Chronicles of Dave, and honestly just being the type of band that we were in general, I think we really did a few different things when it came to the songs that were featured on the Chronicles of Dave. For example, I Belong to You includes a really awesome saxophone part, which was also done by Brian, our drummer. I don't think there were too many high school bands who did rock songs that actually had, saxophone, in their songs. And for some reason, when we were doing I Belong to You, I honestly forget whose idea it was, if it was Shane or Brian, but, somebody had the idea to, just put the saxophone in I Belong to You. Because originally, when I Belong to You was written and performed, it was no sax at all in the song.
When you're gone, it's hard to breathe. You're everything I want to be. I belong to you. For all the things that I hold dear, you're courteous and you're sincere. Can't live without you here. I belong to you.
So it definitely changed the way the song sounded, and it sounded perfect. The way that the saxophone sounded on the actual album just sounds awesome. So that was also a really awesome touch. Another thing we did in a tribute to Teresa was there are actually 2 different bass lines in the song, and that's because you have Kevin playing the actual main bass of the song, but then Shane also was the one who wrote and performed like the little intro bass line that was in the song, and then even throughout different parts of the songs, you can still kind of hear the second bass, the second bass lines being played. So I think that was something that was also a little different. You probably didn't see too many bands with, two bass players, for one song or any song really. So again, I think it was just stuff that we tried to really do a little differently to kind of set us apart from, other, pop, punk, rock, alternative bands that were in the area at the time. And Project One, I think Project One, if I'm not mistaken, actually carried over from a song that we were writing with our old lineup with the band before we were actually Xccentrophobia again. And I can't remember if Project One just stuck with the actual song from back then. I'm pretty sure that it was an old song. And I think the name Project One, I think, came from the fact that it was the first song that we were trying to really work with the old band lineup. But then when it came time, I just honestly always liked the guitar parts that I wrote for that song, and kind of introduced it again when we started, writing the songs early on as a band, back in before our very first show. And it just kind of, I think, made an awesome closer of the album. Just an instrumental, started off with a joke that Shane told. And, we just thought it was a fun way to end the album. And for a long time, we were actually ending our shows with it as well. So I think that's why it also just made sense to put Project One as the last track of the album.
We will let one member of the audience play cowbell in this song, as long as they promise to keep tempo. You stop keeping tempo, we're turning off the mic on the cowbell, even though there's not a mic. You know what? He's gone crazy over cowbell all night. I'm sorry, I know you're a drummer, I still love you. He's gone crazy over cowbell all night. You know what? Everybody, what's your name? Let Brad play cowbell, give him a hand. Way to go, Brad. Woodblock, and this one is called Project One.
The song that I wrote, entitled Without You, was actually a song that I had written before we were Xccentrophobia. It was actually about a month, I think, before we were the Xccentrophobia that came to be on the album. But I remember, I was writing songs. I had just gotten my acoustic, actually, earlier that spring in 2004, and I was really trying to work more with acoustic songs. I was so excited to have that acoustic, and I got to a point where I was writing stuff, a lot of stuff that nobody's ever heard. I just have notebooks full of songs that no one's ever heard, but it got to a point where I just kind of ran out of ideas really quickly, and I felt like I wasn't really coming up with any good songs or any good ideas, and it was almost like writer's block in a way. So yeah, I went like a month without really writing anything good, and then it was like after midnight one night, and sometime in July of 2004, I think is what the notebook is dated. and I started playing the riff, just the very beginning of Without You. Just sitting there, and I just kept playing it over and over for minutes, and then all of a sudden I literally just started saying the words, pretty much the way that they came out in the song, and I would start saying something, and then I'd stop real quick and jot it down, and within a few hours, in the very, very late hours of the night, like I said, it was after midnight, I wrote Without You, and I recorded it on a cassette tape also that night, so I wouldn't forget it, because I just knew that there was something awesome about that song, and that's why I was so glad that when I decided to bring it to the table for Xccentrophobia, I'm so glad that the other guys had actually liked the song a lot, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there were two friends of ours who were at that practice session for the band actually, and they were sitting there, and they heard me playing it for the first time, for everybody, and they cried. They actually there were two girls, but like the one girl, like she got teary eyed, and she was like, so it actually kind of became a joke that whenever I played the song live, I would say, all right, Amanda, it's your song.
Yes, it's Amanda's song. She adopted this song, so it's like her most favorite song ever. Alright, Amanda, here it is. Without You. Before I start, I have like a list of people who want me to dedicate this song. As always, Amanda, right here up front, it's her song.
So she was like the first one who really, really seemed to be attached to the song. So for a long time at every show, I would say it's Amanda's song. So I'm just glad that it showed up on the album, and again, I'm glad that the bands, everybody else, let me put it on there. So when we recorded the Chronicles of Dave, we did pretty much everything live in the at the loft. We didn't do track by track recording. The only thing that was really recorded later was vocals. So when you listen to the Chronicles of Dave, it's pretty much all of us playing live at the same time. There's no click track. Like I said, the songs were still really young. We were still really young as a band, so we weren't 100%, top notch when it came to performing. So no click track to keep tempo. There are mistakes that are that can be heard throughout the album. I think they were just, I think most of us played them off pretty well. Sometimes the tempo is not 100%. The speed might change through in the middle of a song or something. So I mean, the Chronicles of Dave is honestly full of imperfections. But again, I gotta say it again. I love listening to it the way that it is, and I would not change anything about this album, to be honest with you. I really, have to just be thankful for the whole experience and the, us being able to actually put out the album the way that, we were able to do it, just to get our songs out there for people to listen to when they weren't at the show. And that was the whole point, was to satisfy everybody who comes to see our shows, but we also want to be able to extend our music to people who've never heard of us before. The hardest song that I remember recording for this was indeed Without You. For some reason, we could not nail Without You, and it's funny because it's like 3/4 of the song is literally just me with the acoustic singing. There's nothing else in the song up until the very last chorus of the song, and then everybody comes in. The problem we were having, I remember, was everybody coming in. It was never perfect. We had such a hard time trying to record that. And I think what changed it was I decided to tell Mr. Andrews that I just, I want to sing with the acoustic this time. Actually do a live take, because, like I said, we were usually doing vocals last after we recorded the music for every song. But in this case, that's what we were going to do without you, and for some reason it threw everything else off. And I don't know if it's because of the fact that when there's that break in the guitar, and then I start singing, "Where would I be?" That's kind of when I think everybody else knew when to come in on cue. But when there was no singing, and we were just, I was recording the guitar, and then it was time for everybody to come in, we were just all off. And it was frustrating, I will say. So finally, I said, I'm just going to record this. I'm going to sit down, give me the mic. I'll record the guitar and vocals at the same time. And that was it. That's actually what made it work, was as if we were literally playing it the way that we've always played it. Either live or in Brian's basement during practice. The whole story behind Metal Ceramic, I honestly don't know whose idea it was to take the original Ceramic and overlay it with, kind of like screamo vocals in a way. It was obviously a joke. It was not a song to be taken seriously.
This is for the woman that robbed me of my life. I'm miserable. I sit in a room and I play tambourine. Tambourine. Ceramic. Broken up to pieces in my chest. My cold, dark chest, it landed.
So yeah, what we did was, I remember, I was, we were, all four of us were kind of in a circle in the middle of the loft, and Mr. Andrews, played back our recorded track of Ceramic, and the whole thing was pretty much improv, obviously. Shane has always been really good at making up lines on the spot, and he just started making like these heavy metal vocalist noises, kind of like, Disturbs, wah, stuff like that. And obviously the way he sang, so, there was a mic, in front of me, and I would kind of chime in with whatever he was saying in like a heavy metal type screamo voice. And then, of course, Brian is over to the other side of me with the saxophone. And I don't remember if it was his idea or Shane's or whose idea it was to throw the sax in. And honestly, I think the sax is the greatest part of heavy metal Ceramic, because it's just one note that is just played excessively, and it's hilarious.
Tell me, do you owe me this? Inside the darkness. Inside the darkness, outside the light, darkness is light.
Feel so far!
Feel so far! Everything we have! It all fell upon you, wicked woman! Again! But you stabbed me in the eyes! And pieces of ceramic! They smell like Taco Bell!
My favorite part of the song is right after the first chorus of Metal Ceramic is Brian started laughing a little bit, and that one little short note came out of the saxophone.
They smell like Taco Bell! Taco Bell.
And I'm trying not to laugh because, obviously I'm in front of a mic, and Shane's trying to keep going, and I know at some point in the song you actually hear me laugh toward the end, I think. It's just, it was so hard to record that track without busting up, and the saxophone. I had such a hard time keeping, in focus with with that saxophone being played. But that one little note that came out of the sax when he started laughing, that's my favorite part of the whole song. So the whole packaging for the Chronicles of Dave was done by a friend of Harm Andrews, who was also in the band, I believe, with him. So when it came time, after we had done the recording, and it came time to do the packaging, we just kind of told him a little bit of what we were hoping to, have, as far as a layout and such. But I think he said he listened to the tracks as Harm was doing them, mixing them and whatnot, and he kind of was trying to gather a feel for the type of music that was on the album. And when he kind of created the layout and the font and the typewriter type font and all this stuff here, I mean, that's what he gathered. Plus the fact that the album's called The Chronicles of Dave, I think he used the typewriter font and stuff as, like a book, a story. So I really, again, was excited to see the final packaging, when we finally got the whole thing done. It was fun to, have them printed, and obviously we had to put everything together the night before our actual CD release party. But, again, it's just, I like looking at it, and it just makes me feel good to see what we've accomplished during that time. The guy on the cover is Dave. He was a friend, or still is a friend, I should say, of Shane and Brian and Kevin. I didn't honestly know Dave all that much before, we really put Xccentrophobia down in concrete. Dave's an awesome guy, and I think it was Shane's idea to put the album name The Chronicles of Dave. I do not believe there are any songs on here about Dave, to be honest with you. So it really isn't, a Chronicle of Dave. But it was a fun name.
Come on out. Give him a round of applause. He's hitting on the cowbell.
I know some people have asked me back then if we were trying to copy Nirvana's Nevermind with the cover. The answer is no. I don't remember who had this picture, but somebody, it was either Shane or Brian, somebody had a picture of Dave that they took with an underwater camera, and thought that would be, a cool album cover. So that is where the album cover came from. But like I said, we weren't trying to copy Nirvana, by all means. We just thought it was kind of cool to have an underwater picture, I guess. So, The Chronicles of Dave was recorded on December 28th and December 30th of 2004. We had gotten our first copies to listen to sometime in January of 2005. We started to sell the CDs at a show in Cleveland that we were playing, which I believe the date was February 27th or 28th or somewhere around there. But February of 2005, very end of February, we took a few CDs to Cleveland to try to sell. And then on March 12th of 2005, that was the official release of The Chronicles of Dave. We had a huge CD release show at the Eagles Club in Warren. I honestly think that was probably one of the best shows that we have ever played. In fact, I think it was right around that show where, even watching old videos of the earlier shows, if I watch them in order, that show there was like really solid. Everything seemed to go well that show. There was a lot of energy. We played well, and I think from that point on, to be honest with you, that is pretty much when we, as a band, I feel, really got into, the perfection of how to play in front of people, how to perform the songs that we wrote. We become better musicians and better performers, starting with the CD release show, I feel. And that was a good time. That was a great show. I just, the whole experience behind the Chronicles of Dave, in my opinion, I would not change it. It was just a great time in life, I think, for all of us, to be in the band, to be able to record this, to share it with everybody. And then, we had a busy year, trying to promote the songs from the Chronicles of Dave. 2005 was the busiest year that we were as a band. I mean, we had show after show after show, like every month throughout 2005. And then, in early 2006, I honestly decided I needed to take a break. I wanted to focus more on my solo acoustic stuff. So I left the band, and the band kind of went on hiatus for a few months. We regrouped in 2006. We started writing more songs again. We started playing again. We recorded a 4-song EP called By Light of a Jean Black in the fall of 2006, which maybe I'll talk about in the future. We've had our own experience with that album, and that was just a whole other thing there. Good stuff, of course, but nothing I don't think will top going into the Chronicles of Dave with me, to be honest, because it was the first time to really lay down the songs that we had worked so hard, to perform and write and such for everybody. And then, of course, after we recorded, the By Light of a Jean Black EP, we went into 2007. We did a few shows, and then it was in the summer of 2007 when we actually played our last show as the arrangement of the Xccentrophobia, the 4 of us. That is my perspective and my memories and my story behind the recording of the Chronicles of Dave. If you are still interested in listening to the Chronicles of Dave, or if you are somebody who once had this album, but you don't have it no more, and you still want to listen to it, it is available on our BANDCAMP. I have made sure to keep the Xccentrophobia music going in circulation by putting it to a BANDCAMP account. So, if you are interested, this is still available to either stream on BANDCAMP or to download. So check it out today if you're somebody who still is an XCP fan. That is all that I have to say about Xcentrophobia's The Chronicles of Dave. I hope you enjoyed this album story, and stick around. I might have more album stories in the near future. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. Take care.